Welcome back to Loot Labs. In the previous video, we discussed how to use our location variables to trigger a node when a player enters a specific location. In this video, we'll see this being played for real in the editor. We use what we call demo map mode in Loot to actually test in the editor for locations. In this video, we'll show how that works, and then we'll show how to set up the basics in the editor so you can build an actual project to your phone and play it for real in a real location. Let's jump into the editor now. Okay, so we are back in the Unity editor with our simple scene open and with our simple prefab included as well. So there's two things I want to note here before we actually jump into the game. The first is how to show the actual game, the map itself on when in game. There's two key ways we do this. The first can be seen on the start node in our sample prefab that we include in the demo package, called an order called map menu. Essentially what map menu does is create a custom button, and you can provide the sprite for that button if you so choose, that when clicked, the map screen is rendered and then visualized to the player, and if the map is shown and the button is pressed, the map is then hidden. This is useful if you want to switch between a dialog screen and a map screen and allow the player to have that choice to switch between the two. The other method is to kind of force show the map, and we call this toggle map. And essentially what this does is toggles the map on and off. So if the map is being shown, it will toggle the map off and vice versa. This is useful if you really want to make it obvious to the player that they should start looking at the map for the game to progress. The second thing I want to discuss is how to actually test your location stuff whilst in the editor. One thing to note before I move on is if you have included this prefab and you've dragged and dropped it from the project folder into your own scene, it's important to make sure that you reset the transform, which is just simply by going to the transform in the inspector of it, clicking three dots and pressing reset. This just ensures that if there are any location triggers, that they are set to 0 before the game begins. Okay, so there's about three key things here for the locations to really work when playing. The first is called location-based game. That's the object location-based game. This stores the player target. Player target is essentially what the locations will evaluate against when determining if the player is in a location or not. When these two boxes are ticked, or at least when this box is ticked, the immediate position with location provider is ticked, it will use whatever location provider we have to update the player target to that location. And then you can rotate as well to allow people to actually know where they're going, what way they're facing on the map. This is great if you have an icon or an object which actually has an arrow on it, and people can actually get a good idea of which way they're supposed to be going if they ever get lost. For now, we keep these off because we're playing in editor, so we don't want the location to be updated. You can, if you go down to location provider factory, uh, update the location in different ways. If you're using a phone, we use the Android device location provider, and this also works with iOS as well. The transform location provider, the editor location provider, and the default location provider. The editor location provider is useful if you don't want to actually have to drag and move around the map, the player location. You can have a list of different coordinates here, and the player target will go from one to the other in a loop, rather than actually having to drag the player target around. So it's great if you actually want to get a real feel for how the game looks at different locations without actually having to touch anything. Finally, as I noted in the beginning of this video, you want to make sure demo map mode is ticked here on the basic flow engine inspector. The demo map mode essentially means that the locations will evaluate based on the central location of the player target rather than any device location instead. So there's two things you want to make sure if you want to play in the editor. One, make sure that your actual prefab and the parent of any map-based object is set to 0. Two, the player target itself doesn't use the immediate position, so we're actually using the position in our scene, and 3 on the flow engine, the demo map mode toggle is ticked. Okay, so on the flow engine window, we've got our location example, and I've been over already the rich text tags for visiting the same node more than once. We have our location, and we're going to make sure that it requires a press to execute. So let's play and see what happens. So some basic dialogue happened. This is included in the basic demo scene if you use it. And as I mentioned, a map button will be created, and this will simply toggle the map on or off depending on the state of the map. So the player target can be seen. This is the little circle or spherical object here. If I move the mouse around with the left click, you can see it updates. So if we had the player target being snapped, I could move the map around, but the player target would not follow me along. Okay, so we can pretend that here we are at the location, and we can drag up to our first location, which is mentioned in our location example node here. And once we reach it, it turns to the state visited, and that means the radius and the color turns to orange. And if I click anywhere on the location, whilst I'm in the location, that location node, or the node that the location is using, or the node that the location is using, will activate. Okay, so I can click again, and that will show me the first piece of text. But if I click again, it will show me the second piece of text, and if I click that off, again, it shows me the third piece of text here. So that's how you play with locations in the editor. It's pretty simple to ensure that you can play these games on your device. We just go through those settings and we almost just reverse them. So again, if we go to player target, we want to make sure that at least the immediate position is turned on. And you can have rotate if you'd like. You want to make sure that the player location, when they move around and rotate, the player target rotates with them. Then you want to make sure you go down to the Android and transform location providers. Make sure these are both switched on as well. Then go to Flow Engine and make sure Demo Map Mode is turned off. Okay. So if I play this again, what you'll see is the basic start text, show the map, and you can see now I can move the map around, but my player is stuck because it's using the immediate with the location provider, and that location provider is the editor because we're currently in the editor, and it's this editor location array provider. So the player location is stuck to the location here. If I added more than one, it would go from this one to this one and loop in a circle. Okay, so that should cover how to add locations as variables, how to use them in event handlers, and then how to test them in the editor, and then what settings are required to build it to the device so you can actually play test in the real locations themselves. This should be the very basic primer on how to set up a basic location game using dialogues, locations, and event handlers. In the next video, we'll have a little bonus tips and tricks where we'll discuss locations in if statements and how to actually update the custom styling of pins on the map themselves. We hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching Loot Labs, and see you in the next one.